Welcome back to College Football Addiction. Drake, let's talk a little bit about Brett Yormark, the college football playoff. Some changes are thought to maybe happen. Some are proposed. Our video today presented by BetUS. Brett Yormark not playing games and maybe slighting the college football playoff committee. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, TJ, it's very interesting here. Brett Yormark said a couple of weeks ago after the first rankings came out that in no world, there was no way that a group of five school should be ranked behind the Big 12 in the college football playoff. What he was upset about was the way that teams are ranked in this 12-team playoff format. So then the college football playoff board comes to Yormark, they come to Sankey, Petiti, and they say, all right, everybody, we understand this year was a bit of a crapshoot. You're all complaining about the way that we seed these things, so let's change it. Now, it has to be unanimous. We look around the room. We say all 10 commissioners plus Notre Dame who gets the same vote as a Brett Yormark. All 10 commissioners in Notre Dame, we are going to change the format of the playoff. We will basically seed everybody as we think that they are. And instead of giving buys to the conference champions, we'll just give you a rank and we'll move on. To which Brett Yormark said, hey, wait a second. I do think that we should be ranked above a group of five school like Boise State based on strength of schedule, but also, no, because you would have made Arizona State the number 12 team. And if we're judging by the college football playoff poll or the AP poll, they're a top 10 team. They proved that against Texas. There were two massive calls, one a game-winning touchdown that could have been overturned that lost them that game. And if we just put this in your hands entirely and didn't have a safety net over the Big 12, our best school would have been 12th in the country going on the road in a raucous environment somewhere. And, oh, hey, also, by the way, Boise State and Indiana, like we've heard, TJ, so many people complain, oh, well, it was a way easier path for a Penn State to go as far as they did. If they were to have seeded 1 through 12, just best to worst based on this year and the way the poll finished, it would have been number 8 Boise State hosting number 9 Indiana. And you would have heard the exact same complaints from Tennessee or Ohio State saying, well, why do they get to play Boise State in round 1? Why does Boise State have it so easy playing Indiana and we've got to go play Ohio State? So no matter what the college football playoff board right now is saying is we need to appease these major conferences, these big two, because they're upset. And Brett Yormark says, if it's unanimous and I can hold out on this, I'm not voting yes. And then he turns to the commissioner of the Mountain West Conference, and she says, I'm not doing that either. And then he turns to the ACC, and their commissioner says, Jim Phillips says, I'm out. This doesn't make any sense. We're going to give them the autonomy to rank the SEC and the Big Ten numbers 1 through 9, and then pity party 3 other teams, one from the Big 12, one from the ACC, one from the Mountain West. And what we proved this postseason is you can't do that. You can't do that and it be fair in college football because Big 12 teams are better than we thought they were. Boise State is more competitive. Though they lost that game, was more competitive than many people thought they would be. Ashton Genty deserved to be in the college football playoff. So all Brett Yormark is doing is saying, hey, yeah, there are some issues with the way we place these teams, some issues with the college football playoff. But if you think you can just rank the Big 12 team that you want to 12th every year, I'm not falling for it. I'm not voting for it. We'll hold out as long as we need to. This is Yormark putting his foot down no matter who he pisses off.
He's going to be able to probably hold out for this year. But when we get to 2026 and we get to a new format or no format that's agreed upon, do you think he's able to hold out there, or do you think that the change is inevitable?
Here is why I think he'll struggle to hold out, because he couldn't hold out when it came to the playoff compensation formula they drafted up this year, saying that the Big 12 would be far behind the Big 10, far behind the SEC, and not get an equal playoff share as those two conferences. That was really tough for Yormark to fight off. He couldn't fight it off for very long. He looked for help from the dead Pac-12, now the Pac-2, and Kirk Schultz, the president from Washington State. Every direction Yormark could go was, hey, someone please help me. Do you understand? They are, based on this perceived notion, giving those two conferences way more money than they're giving us without even doing this 12-team format. Not even once have we been given an opportunity to compete. And from there, he was strong-armed into accepting less money, and now in 2026, he'll be strong-armed into something different. Or at the end of the day, this monopoly that is the SEC, or this conglomerate of SEC and Big Ten leadership will look at Brett Yormark and say, adapt or die, which basically means accept what we want you to do, or we will tear your conference to shreds.
I will get right back to chatting with Drake, but first, do me a favor and give some love to our friends over at BetUS. We appreciate them for riding with us this year. Make sure that you're betting with them if you are betting on the NFL playoffs or any other sporting events. Use our code YouTube150 for a 150% deposit bonus on your first deposit, 125% on your next two, all of that up to $2,000. We appreciate BetUS for their support.
That's where college football has gotten today, is this big major bully ball. And honestly, it's the TV networks that pull the strings. I don't believe that Fox is a major part of that. Fox has a huge investment in the Big 12. If the Big 12 went away tomorrow, Fox would not like that very much. If Deion Sanders in Colorado went away tomorrow, they would not be happy. Whereas ESPN, they have vested interest in one league, and that's the SEC. Now, do they have money in the ACC and the Big 12? No doubt. But the SEC is their stock that they need to grow. And so where it sits right now, your mark will be strong-arm, no doubt. And that's just the era of college football that we're in, where money calls the shots.
Is there a possible happy medium? I've seen people talk about going to 14, and then you give the SEC and the Big 10 4 auto bids. You give the Big 12 and the ACC 2, and then you duke it out between the rest of them, maybe a group of 5 and maybe one at large. Is that more palatable than what we have now? Because at least you'd get 2 in every time. Maybe they can change the money around to kind of help with that. Now you're always going to get half as much, even if they made the money even, unless you get that third bid, right? Then you get 3/4 of it as much. But do you think that that's maybe what is the equitable solution? What's the best case scenario maybe for the Big 12?
I'm going to need someone to bear with me here. This is going to be tough. What I'm about to say is going to be tough to digest. With a 12-team playoff, we are judging the hottest team in college football at the end of the year. We're judging the hottest team in a tournament format. I spent 5 years covering high school football in Texas, and a lot of times the team that will win the Texas high school football state championship at any level was the team that got hot, had the fewest injuries. They were the team that was able to they were durable enough that when not in a 1-game setting, but in a 6-game tournament setting, they could win to the very end. You saw it this year where seeds 5 through 8 were made up the Final Four. Maybe in a vacuum, in a 1-game scenario, Georgia's the best team in the country. Maybe it's Alabama. Maybe it's Texas. Those weren't the schools that won it overall. Ohio State was best suited to win a national championship in a tournament format. You saw Ohio State lose to Michigan. In a 1-game format, things are a lot different. That was the BCS era. In a 2-game format with the Final Four of the college football playoff, 4 teams, that was different. To make it equitable, what I would just love to see, and people have proposed this, what if, instead of a conference championship, you go 4 teams, mini tournament at the conference level, and from there, you play your way into a conference championship. So from 4 teams down to 2, and then each league sends its representative to the college football playoff. Maybe it's 8, and you loop in the AAC in the Mountain West. And from there, there's no crying, there's no moaning. Everybody got 1 in, and from this point, we play 3 rounds of football to determine a national champion. Maybe that's not the most fair way to do it, but I think it's fun to see there are no like, oh, I'm so mad you didn't put my X team in. No. Now you legitimately go win your conference, show that you're the best regionally, and from there you can compete for a national championship. You might think, oh, that's so stupid. The NFL, we give a free playoff spot to division winners no matter what their record is. They won their division. Yeah. In college football, I think it's regional enough still you could possibly do the same.
Yeah, you're right. We always get an NFL team that's got like a 500 record or maybe just below 500, and they get not only a playoff game like Boise State and Arizona State, they get a home playoff game for winning their division because there's such a prize placed on that. And as we get closer and closer and closer to the NFL, which I don't love for a lot of reasons, as we get closer and closer and closer to that model, it probably needs to be the way that we get teams into the postseason as well.
No doubt. I don't mind following the best football league in the world.
Yeah. Drake, where can people follow you? Where can they get more of your work?
At Drake C. Toll, at LO Big 12 on Twitter, and wherever you find your podcast with Locked On Big 12.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
Of course.